Hello and welcome to Power Encounter. My name is Cyndi Biondi. So excited to have you in the studio with us today. And I'm here with Susan Szczesniak. So excited to have you, Susan. I've been looking forward to this for months.
Me too.
Susan what is your title with FFR?
Okay, so my title is Recovery Services Coordinator.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So Susan is the Recovery Services Coordinator for Foundations for Recovery, a wonderful, wonderful organization here in the Southern Oregon that really reaches out to folks who are struggling with all kinds of addictions, any kind of addiction you can even think of, really, and some of the most vulnerable in our valley. And she has given her life to that. And look, see, I've known you for how long now? About 5 years,
Since
I think so.
2012?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Even
Yeah, in
longer.
the Woolworth building.
Time flies. Oh my gosh, that's right. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And we met because we were there, and I had heard awesome things about Foundations for Recovery helping. And in fact, I think I sent some of people that I knew to you to talk with you.
I think so.
For some help. It was so wonderful. And we had offices on the same floor of the Woolworth building in Medford, Oregon. And I found out that Foundations for Recovery does a lot of peer support. So people who've been through really, really tough times and who are willing to give back and to spend time mentoring and encouraging others who are still on the journey and still struggling. And I thought that was so cool. So at that time, I thought, you know what, I want to be one of these support people. I want to learn more. I want to know more. I want to be able to help my neighbor, my family, my friends. I mean, all of us have family and friends that are struggling in some type of addiction. And it's only seems like it's getting worse, or certainly more dire as the years go by. And so I was so excited to meet you guys and to get to be a part of your organization. And I became a peer support specialist.
Yes, you did.
I did. I loved it. I learned so much. So Foundation for Recovery has a week-long training, and you'll probably see Susan's email there if you're interested in getting some training, or even being coming in and talking with Foundations for Recovery. Please write down that email and email Susan if you want to talk to her about yourself or about someone that you know, or the whole program, or anything like that. Write that down and get a hold of her. She's wonderful, easy to talk to, caring and loving, and just super good people. So tell me about Foundations for Recovery.
Okay, well, Foundations for Recovery started in 2011. Our founder, his name was Steve Hale, and he worked for Genesis. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
when it was in Central Point.
Recovery Center as well, yeah.
Treatment center in Central Point. And he kept seeing people coming in and out of treatment. They would come in, they would leave, they'd be back again. He called it the revolving door. So they were coming in and out, and he said there's got to be something. There's got to be some way to help people to stay in recovery. So he did some research, and he found the Connecticut Community for Addiction Recovery, which is CCAR. And they had a peer mentoring model that they were following. They call it recovery coaching, which I think is friendlier and just real nice. I like calling myself a recovery coach. But anyway, so he went back, he took the training, and then he started Foundations for Recovery, and several people were trained at that time, and they just started doing the work.
Just people who cared.
Yeah.
I have someone working in with a Genesis here in the valley as well, and same thing, revolving door.
Yeah.
It's frustrating and heartbreaking.
But they say a person has, on average, 7 attempts at recovery before they're successful.
So do you guys hear that out there? 7 attempts. So if you're out there.
Yeah, if you've tried it before and it didn't work, try it again.
That's right.
Try it again.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. So often when I talk with people who are, we were talking about this earlier, people who are 10 or 20 or 30 years clean, they'll tell me about when, they had 5 years clean and fell off. And, you could just give up and think, I can't make it. But, God is always there. No matter how many times we fail, no matter how many times we fall. I never counted how many times my toddler fell when they were trying to walk. Yeah. And the Lord is always there, unconditionally, ever, ever, ever supportive. Yeah. And, okay, so it started in 2011 with Steve. Yeah. And then you guys began to branch out and...
Yeah, and then he passed away, and so we... Foundations for Recovery hired another director,
and then a board, right?
Yep, board of directors, awesome. And just kept going. We were in the Woolworth building,
yes,
and then
I remember.
and then a couple years later, I can't remember the timeline exactly. I think it was 2016-ish. We moved to another location on
I remember
South on Central, and then just most recently to 110 North Ivy, to the new building that we're in now.
That's
so cool. So it's worked out really great. It's a super location. People can walk from other services that they're going to find. Yeah. So it's been a really good move for us.
And so you, what can you tell me a little bit about that move? What did you integrate into another faith-based, basically, organization? Is that right?
Well, so just this last June of 2019. We merged with Rogue Retreat. Okay, so awesome. we are a charitable organization.
Right.
So nonprofit charitable organization, and so they do housing, we do recovery, kind of a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
They started out doing recovery housing.
Right. I remember.
And then kind of moved into more the homeless population.
Right, they do. They work with
addressing
access, a lot of food and things too.
But and then we started out as recovery, but wanting to move into housing. Right, that's kind of been on everybody's mind this whole time.
Like a full meal deal, right?
And finally, that's where we're at. So we've got kind of both. All those bases covered. So it's pretty cool. I love being a part of Rogue Retreat.
So Rogue Retreat, over all of these, they've got, oh my goodness, they have Rogue Retreat, which is housing for families. Right. They have Hope Village. Yeah. Oh my goodness, if you haven't toured Hope Village or gone into Rogue Retreat and seen go online on their website and take a look at what they've done with Hope Village. Oh my goodness.
It's incredible.
Really, really, really exciting for people who are have just had constant homelessness and they're just doing all kinds of case management and helping them really get on their feet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah. We've talked about this on this program before, so some of you guys have heard that before. Foundations Recovery is one of the also organizations underneath that umbrella of Rogue Retreat. So tell me, what is the focus of Foundation for Recovery? What makes it unique in its offerings?
So we're unique in that we are not a treatment program per se, but we offer support. So peer support, that's the model that
so what support? What does support mean? What do you do?
So peer support, it's a little bit like case management in a way, and having gone through the training, you know that we're resource brokers, right?
Yes, I love it.
So connecting people to different resources, that's part of what we do. That's a big part of what we do.
It's huge.
If someone doesn't have their birth certificate, they can't get their driver's license, then they can't get a job, they can't get housing. There's a lot of barriers that way.
A lot of this is generational. So one of the gals that I was working with, her mother, she did never use, but she's out homeless. Her mother did, her father did. They were heavy, heavy, heavy users, and the generation before that too. So by the time it got to her, she didn't ever do that. But the poverty that goes along with that addiction had struck her, and so it was really really sad watching her struggle with that.
My family had a lot of addiction. But I never went that way. I was a little bit afraid to get started because I was afraid I'd never quit.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of like I got into recovery before I actually had a problem. But, I've had a problem with other things, but the biggest thing that often people who don't identify as having an addiction is codependency.
Okay.
So, so enabling, like I want you to be happy because if you're happy, then I can be happy.
Right.
If you're not happy, I can't be happy.
That's awfully true.
And so, no, it's not true, but it does feel true. It feels completely true.
And it isn't.
but it's that thing that like that's an addiction. Of its own.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
A lot of people are addicted to relationships.
Right.
Got to be in a relationship, or I don't know what to do with myself.
Yes.
I'm not worth anything if I don't have somebody. A lot of these things they're not true.
Right.
They might feel true, but they're not true.
Right.
And that reminds me of what we were talking about earlier. There's a scripture that says that we see through a glass darkly.
Boy,
right? So we don't see things clearly. In seeing them not clearly, we think that what we see is real.
Right.
But it's not.
And then we interpret.
Right.
From the thing that we see that we didn't see real. So then we're really
So then we think something is, but that's, like, I just kind of had this vision of like that's what faith is, because we see through this glass kind of darkly. We think we see some things, we're not really sure, but we have to trust God that through that veil is real life.
Yes.
Is new life and a new way of living.
That's right.
And so that veil sometimes for some people is the addiction. It's it's grief. A lot of grief and loss goes along with addiction.
Boy, I learned
a lot
that
of
in my
mental
training.
health struggles.
With you. I learned how much, how people so often, we think, they just got addicted or whatever, but often they're self-medicating some terrible grief, some terrible loss. And
Trauma.
It's the only way they know to escape that horrible, if you've ever lost a loved one, you know that the pain is unbearable.
Yeah.
And so many people really start off that way, trying somehow. And that was really an eye-opener for me. I love the training. I would recommend anybody to go through the training, that week-long training, besides the great food, because Susan's a great cook.
Shucks.
I would recommend that you go through that training, because you will understand what's going on in really our country more when you take that, so much more when you take that training, and it gives you a lot more compassion. And
and that's the focus of the whole training is first of all, don't treat people like objects and tell them what to do.
That's true.
We have compassion because they have their own pathway in life, their own things that they're called to do, whether they know that or not, whether they know what exactly it is, but at that moment it's their choice. We have to honor that.
That's right.
And just the training kind of brings out this whole way of treating people and of seeing people and seeing your own role. Our role might be, one of our roles that we teach is problem solver. But that doesn't mean we jump in and solve the problem for them.
Even though you want to.
Right? What it means is we say, what are the barriers? What kept you from this? What are some things that you might have done? What are some steps that you could take? And then if they can't come up with something, because sometimes folks have had a lot of trauma and they don't even know how to come up with anything like that. So then we model it, right? Because we're also role models. So we can model that kind of problem-solving behavior, but it's not about doing things for them. It's about helping them to develop the self-sufficiency to be able to do it for themselves.
That's right.
And that's the big part of what Rogue Retreat does with the case management.
Yes.
And so that's why it's such a great thing, because they have the case management piece, but we come right along and offer peer support so that, they can do the hard things that they've never been able to do before.
Well, I love the peer support part, because so often you feel more confident talking with someone who's been there, and you don't feel like quite as less than or whatever. And they can say, I know how you feel. And so that was really powerful people who have gone through really hard
Yeah.
times, and how did it affect them? How did they feel in those stages? Because I have never had a drug addiction. I mean, everybody has addictions of this and addictions of that, sugar addictions, coffee addictions, whatever.
Coffee addiction.
I know, really.
It's water, I
I know,
promise.
yes, that's right. But, it was wonderful to feel like I could listen to everyone who was talking about how they felt. And this is what they went through, and this is why they quit, or this is why they gave up.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. And you can hear the same thing, and it might be 10 people gave up for the exact same reason. You're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal, and I had no idea that would be. I know when I was listening to the Dream Center, LA Dream Center does a whole lot of peer support and down there, and I was listening to the president of Dream Center, and he went down and spent the night down on Skid Row, and he said, and he was dressed and everything like a homeless, because he really wanted to feel. He wanted to feel what they felt. He wanted to understand what they were going through. And he said by the time he got done, he spent one whole night, and I think the whole day, so it was 24 or 48 hours, something like that. But he said by the time I got done, here I was, someone who actually wasn't necessarily homeless, I wasn't necessarily struggling with some of these issues, but the reaction of regular people on the sidewalk and around, and the reaction of other people was so difficult for me, and they were so either afraid or they were disgusted or whatever. He said by the time I got done, my self-esteem was like in the toilet. And he said, I wonder how do you, if you have addiction issues or homeless issues or some of these really difficult issues, and you face it day after day, how do you go on? He said it was just really, really, really painful.
And that's why our thing has always been to bring hope to people.
Yes.
And that it takes on new meaning when you see someone who literally is hopeless.
Yes. And
who comes in and literally says, I don't even think that I can keep doing this. Like no hope whatsoever. And then to have them, you talk with them a little while, you encourage them, you notice the things they're doing right, and you say, hey, 3 days, you got 3 days? That's amazing, good job.
Exactly.
And they leave, all of a sudden they're like, wait, I do have some hope. And I think that's why we all do what we do.
Yes.
It's for those moments.
When I did my training with you guys, I did it because I love the Lord, and I know He loves every single person on this planet. And He says, I am the help of the helpless. I am the hope of the hopeless. He says, I see you. I love you. I can give you everything you need to have life and love. And so I look at Foundations Recovery and Rogue Retreat are full. Almost everyone there are Christians who have decided that they want to give their life for the poor and the hurting and the struggling. And I want people in our community to know that Christians care because Jesus cares. Christians care because Jesus cares, and His heart becomes our heart, and we care for what He cares for, and He cares for every single wounded one, every single hurting one. And He said that we are to help the poor and the hurting, and that we are to be people who build back up streets and dwellings that have been destroyed. That we are to bring recovery. So I want our people out there listening now to know that these are faith-based. You don't have to be a Christian to go to any of them. But not only they're faith-based, because we want you to know that Jesus loves you, that He has the power, the love, and the will to deliver every single person on this planet, but also that He is that He has put this on people's heart to create these organizations like Rogue Retreat and Hope Village. Oh my goodness, if you haven't heard Hope Village, I don't keep saying that, but
sounds like wonderful. You like Hope Village.
I loved Hope Village. Oh my goodness. Well, it was like
it's
for
amazing.
me, it's that we were talking earlier about it being a full meal deal,
Yeah.
you know, and about it being that it's a complex issue, homelessness and addictions and all that. It's a complex issue.
Yeah.
There's just
Yeah.
so many reasons in this ball of hurting, and so I love it that Foundations for Recovery works with all these other organizations. Like, you don't have your GED, so you can't get these services. You don't have you're a veteran and you're not connected to your veteran services. You're whatever
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
that's
Get 'em into
necessary.
treatment.
Yes, get you into treatment and
Yeah.
say, no, you can do this. Oh my goodness. I have a girlfriend one time, and she I've known her for years and years, and when she was young, she had some development issues, and she was considered handicapped, and she's smart, and she's she got this label, but this label followed her.
Yeah.
I don't think schools do this now, but this label back in the day followed her all
Yeah.
the way through. And I remember telling her, I don't know who labeled you that, but you don't even have any
That's
of
not
those
who you
learning
are. Yeah,
disabilities.
yeah.
I don't know what. So she ended up graduating from college with straight A's. So you know,
Yeah.
and here she was, had this funky label, and I think that can be destructive
Yeah.
in people's lives,
Yeah.
and can contribute to some of these difficulties we find, these pits we find ourselves in.
Yeah. I don't know what it was called, but there was an experiment that was done one time by, maybe it was a college or something. Y'all can Google it, I don't know. But anyway, the gist of it was that all these people went and got themselves checked into a mental institution by saying that they had a certain diagnosis, right? So they were in this institution, and their job was to try to get out of the institution, and they couldn't do it.
Oh, wow.
They could not, because once they got that label, anything they said, if they said, look, I don't belong here, right?
I want to get in here.
That's what everybody said. So, you know what I mean? So anything that they tried to say, they were either labeled then paranoid or, you know, all these kind
Right.
of different things. And they were not able to communicate that, no, I'm not this.
Right. I
So-
have this
so
trouble, but that's not who I am.
Yeah. But I mean, they didn't even have the trouble. They were perfectly mentally sound people.
Right. Isn't that
right?
interesting?
And so in our training, back to the training, we teach about labels.
Yes, you
because
do.
they're so powerful, and
They are.
they can be destructive.
And we don't even realize that we label, or at least I don't always realize that I've labeled some,
Yeah.
you know, and so there was a lot of, it was just a wonderful training.
Yeah.
And I love what you are doing out there with folks, and we want you guys to know that it's free.
Yeah,
It is supported
absolutely
by
free.
people who love this valley and the people in this valley, and so it's completely free. And whatever kind of recovery you need, or whatever, it's available
Yes.
there. And you can email Susan, and whether you need whatever it is that you need, she'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah,
If she
absolutely.
doesn't have what you need, and so you've been involved with them since 2012. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Before we move to,
Okay.
I want to make sure that I clarify something that, so our services are free. If you want to come and get a recovery coach, it's completely free.
Okay.
Right? But the training, there is a cost.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't,
Very true.
I don't want to
Thank you. I didn't really thank you
mislead
so much.
anybody just because, yeah, it's $425, which
For the training.
is a good price.
For us to
Yeah.
become a peer support.
Yes.
But for those people who are
But
who
if
are
you want a
struggling,
coach.
yes, they want a
Yes,
coach. It's free for
absolutely.
them. For
Absolutely.
those of us who want to help, we can
Yes.
pay to have some awesome training.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! I think even if you didn't end up being a peer specialist, it would be super helpful.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of being involved with Foundations for Recovery?
My favorite part. Well, my favorite part is when I'm meeting with a participant. We call them participants, and we always have men meeting with the men and women with women,
that's so good.
just to, because it's just safer that way. I think my favorite part is just when that connection is made. Like, as an example, I have a gal that I've been working with for just over a year now. When she first came, she was running around trying to, like, triangulate with everybody, you know what I mean? Like, just, if she couldn't get something from one person, she'd go and ask the next person.
Okay,
So
right, sure.
finally, we got that settled, but she was, to her own admission, was manipulative and things like that.
Sure.
Well, we just started working, and she started working on her recovery and really doing the work, you
Yes.
know? And we went through some interactive journals. They're just like workbooks that you can go
Right.
through, and it just helps you to kind of get things on paper and kind of see what it is that you're struggling with and how to move forward. Anyway, she went through 4 of the books that we have, and now she's working. She's got her own place.
is that
She has, like, I think, primary custody of her child.
Again, oh my
You know,
goodness.
where she didn't before.
Yeah.
Just all the things that she was struggling with because of drug use,
Right.
they've all been resolved, and she's
so
doing
wonderful.
so great. That's kind of my favorite part,
Yeah.
but my second favorite part is training, because I can work with one person, or maybe I work with like maybe 8 people, and that's 8 lives that I can touch. But if I have 20 people in a training and they each work with 8 people,
That's awesome.
do the math. I've got
yes.
like, what, 160 people?
Yeah, that's
right.
so
So
cool.
that I love. I
The
love
training.
that.
Oh, and
yeah.
I just loved it.
Yeah.
Love the training. I'm excited about going back in and doing a refresher course too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that I also learned about, there's a lot of lies we believe.
Oh, yeah.
When we've gone through some struggles and things
Yeah.
like that. And I remember one of my
Denial.
first gals. Yeah.
Right?
Well, even one of the first
Yeah.
gals that I that I got to be a peer specialist for, she said, well, I haven't seen my kids for a year and they're better off without me. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Right.
what lie? Where did that lie come from?
Yeah.
No way. There's no way that any kids are better off without their mother.
Yeah.
Well, now she's totally integrated into their lives, and it's been really
Yeah.
wonderful. So
That's
there's a
awesome.
lot of lies out there, and we want people to know that that there is a service here, Foundations for Recovery.
Yeah.
There's a service here for those people who are struggling in every kind of addiction. It's faith-based, but you don't have to be a Christian. It's
Exactly.
free. There's training also for those of us who'd like to be better neighbors and mothers and grandmothers, and there's they have a long-term vision for
Yeah.
getting people really on their feet
Yeah.
and reintegrated into a fulfilling life, whatever that looks
Yeah.
like for them. Each person is different, right?
Yeah. So Rogue Retreat, their vision or their mission statement is
Okay, so
creating opportunities for the homeless to have hope.
Oh, that's
Isn't that wonderful?
good.
Yeah.
Creating opportunities for the homeless to have hope.
Yeah.
That's what Foundations for Recovery is.
Yeah.
We're so excited and hope that you can take advantage of that some
Yeah.
way in your life.
Yeah. So at Foundations, we have our own little saying, and it's transforming our community one recovery at a time.
One recovery at a time.
And why I love that so much is
Okay.
because, you do a recovery in
We're done.
a group. Oh, okay.
See that right there? When that comes on. So